Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right into the core of Chapter 1 from our source material. If you're sitting in the C-suite, or maybe you're an IT director who's actively planning a massive migration away from VMware Cloud Foundation to a physical infrastructure stack, well, you're facing a colossal transformation. But here is the hard truth we need to get out of the way immediately. The highest risk in this entire migration is not the shiny new hardware you're buying. It's not the storage arrays, it's not the physical switches. Your absolute highest risk, it's your human capital. So, let's look at exactly how we manage that.
Which brings us to a quote that really hits the nail on the head for Chapter 1. Training readiness is migration readiness. The strategic case here is crystal clear. Investing in your people before, during, and after the infrastructure transformation is the true, ultimate determinant of whether this project succeeds or fails. You literally cannot just drop brand new bare metal infrastructure onto a team that's completely accustomed to abstracted virtualization and expect things to just run seamlessly. Delaying that human investment, it ultimately sabotages your multi-million-dollar hardware investment.
Here is our strategic blueprint for today. We'll be hitting 6 key areas: assessing current team skills, defining the target stack, the abstraction gap, high-risk cutovers, incident response, and finally, sustaining institutional knowledge.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, assessing current team skills, the foundation.
A structured skills inventory is the absolute bedrock of every single training budget decision you're going to make. So how do we actually pull this off? Well, you've got to execute a straightforward 3-step process across your IT team. First up, assess the current state. Survey your staff on their actual proficiency with VCF components like vSphere and NSXT. Second, you map that directly to your target state to spot the gaps. Where exactly are your blind spots when it comes to bare metal OS administration or physical networking? And third, categorize these requirements by role, because what your network engineers need to learn is obviously very different from what your help desk staff needs to know.
Now, here's where a lot of organizations tend to get stuck. You need a formal governance structure. Establishing a RACI matrix, defining exactly who is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed is absolutely essential. You have to clearly define who assigns the training, who actually delivers it, and who tracks its completion. Because if there is any ambiguity about who is managing the team's upskilling, it will kill your project's momentum before you even unbox a single server.
Moving right along to Section 2, defining the target stack to avoid budget risk.
Look, the bottom line is that misaligned training is just setting budget on fire. You literally have to lock in your infrastructure decisions before you procure a single training course. Take a look at the hypervisor choices, Proxmox, Hyper-V, KVM, or your physical networking vendors, like Cisco versus Aruba. Each of these specific vendor choices demands a completely distinct training path with entirely different prerequisite skills. You simply cannot build a training matrix on a maybe. You have to build it on confirmed, locked-in vendor selections.
Next up, Section 3, the abstraction gap, and why we're relearning the fundamentals.
Let's actually define this because it's fascinating. The abstraction gap basically means this. Your staff, who have been living inside VCF's beautifully abstracted compute environment, are suddenly going to have to relearn hardware fundamentals totally from scratch. We're talking about BIOS and UEFI configurations, managing physical RAID controllers, and handling low-level firmware updates. Because this gap is so wide, vendor-led hardware training absolutely must be completed before your lab environments are even built, not concurrently. They need those fundamentals locked in before they can experiment safely.
So, let's map this out on a timeline to see how it builds practically. If you're an IT director, consider this your pre-migration countdown. By week 2, you are confirming that target stack and shortlisting your training vendors. By week 3, you're building out that role-based matrix we just talked about and formally submitting the budget. And by week 4, you're identifying your migration champions and getting them enrolled in that very first cohort. Their success essentially becomes the proof of concept for the rest of the team. It's a highly visual, rapid sprint toward kickoff.
But right before you actually kick off, I want you to consider this question. When does a migration become irreversible? As a leadership team, you've got to define your technical point of no return. Maybe it's when the very last production workload leaves VCF. Or maybe it's when those old licenses are formally not renewed. Defining this trigger in advance is vital because it controls your external communication governance. It manages stakeholder perceptions and keeps you from making premature announcements to vendors.
All right, Section 4, high-risk cutovers, also known as the knowledge cliff.
Pay close attention to this one. The transition from NSXT back to physical networking, that is, hands down, the single highest risk training gap moment of the entire project. Why? Because under immense pressure during a tight maintenance window, human beings instinctively revert to what is familiar.
If a cutover goes sideways, an engineer might intuitively try to apply virtualization troubleshooting patterns to a physical routing loop, and those patterns will be completely 100% wrong.
To mitigate this cliff, your strategy needs to be hyper-specific. You absolutely must pre-assign a designated cutover lead. And they shouldn't just be armed with good intentions, right? They need a physical, printed decision tree covering the top 5 failure scenarios and their exact step-by-step resolutions. When the pressure is on and the clock is ticking, you have to remove the need for on-the-fly guesswork.
Which brings us to Section 5, Incident Response, or Training Under Fire. When hardware faults pop up mid-migration, and trust me, they absolutely will under load, you've got to reframe them. These aren't setbacks. They're actually irreplaceable, high-value training moments. You need to execute a mandatory structured loop. An incident occurs, you follow a predefined escalation path. You resolve it using your established runbooks. But here is the real magic step. You hold a mandatory 15-minute debrief on the root cause, and then you immediately update your runbook. This rapid loop turns a sudden project crisis into permanent institutional knowledge.
And I just love this quote because it highlights the human element perfectly. Errors made in a supervised migration context are learning events, not performance failures. Leadership has to actively manage team resilience here. You need to be communicating daily wins to keep morale high and explicitly reframing these mistakes as curriculum moments. If you aren't monitoring for skill anxiety and fatigue, burnout is going to become a massive project risk.
Finally, Section 6, Sustaining Institutional Knowledge, Building the Legacy.
We have to contrast a massive operational vulnerability against proper governance. Think about it. If all the operational knowledge about your shiny new bare metal stack exists only in a couple of individual engineers' heads, well, you've got a ticking time bomb of operational risk and a complete succession planning failure on your hands. You must convert that experience into a formal management system. This means creating living runbooks with actual named owners and review cycles right alongside a fully searchable internal wiki. Undated, unowned runbooks? They quickly just become liabilities. And hey, as you're building this legacy, do not forget the financial and administrative levers you have at your disposal. Tie the completion of these new training paths straight to professional performance reviews. It sends a clear signal that this learning is mandatory. Also, get your procurement teams engaged early. When you're buying all this new hardware and software, negotiate training credits directly into the contracts. Most vendors offer them. Do not pay retail for your team's upskilling.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to chew on as we wrap up this explainer. Every single week you delay your training initiatives. You're compressing the runway for your engineers and drastically increasing the risk of a totally catastrophic cutover. Remember our core thesis for Chapter 1. Training readiness is migration readiness. Delaying the investment in your people fundamentally sabotages the millions you're spending on hardware. So, looking closely at your current roadmap, are you truly ready to start?